Farmers Mutual Hail has been protecting America's farmers with innovative products and solutions for over 130 years. They provide crop and farm insurance across the U.S., and they lead the industry in harnessing the power of precision ag technology with crop insurance to leverage data for streamed reporting and enhanced claim experiences. Beyond technology, FMH's solutions are backed by integrity, meaningful relationships, and expertise that has kept the company strong for generations. And in working with them, I can totally attest to that. They are amazing. So Farmers Mutual Hail, they're going to integrate with FieldView to allow, or they do integrate with FieldView to allow growers to electronically report acreage and production directly to FMH agents with just a few simple clicks. And they're going to walk you through that here in a minute. The data can also be used to adjust a loss or complete an audit, saving time and speeding up a claim payment. So that is awesome. And our wonderful speakers that we have here, first and foremost, we have Dawn Stoppelmore. She is the AVP Business Development for Farmers Mutual Hail. And Dawn leads that business development and precision solutions initiatives to drive innovation that positions FMH as a leader in its industry. Her unique background combines experience in information technology, program management, product development, and business development, which allows her to build creative go-forward solutions. Wow, that is a lot, Dawn. That's amazing. She is also a Loras College graduate with her MBA from Drake University and has worked throughout her career in financial and insurance industries. Welcome, Dawn. And with Dawn, we have Betsy Harms. She is an independent insurance agent with the Phillips Stratford Insurance Group. Betsy has been an independent agent since 2010, serving her clients with their home, auto, farm, commercial, life, and health insurance needs. Her roots are in agriculture with a degree from Iowa State in agriculture business. Insurance has been the perfect fit for her as she loves the combination of risk management, agriculture, and providing value to her clients. She has years of experience with crop insurance precision reporting and helping farmers with their data management. Betsy lives in Ackley, Iowa, on an acreage with her husband Levi and 3 sons, Alex, Jace, and Cody. Welcome, Betsy. And then last but not least, we have our farmer, Cole Olson. So J. Cole Olson is a 3rd-generation farmer who raises corn and soybeans along with his uncle in Brooklyn, Iowa, Iowanites here. His background includes attending Iowa State University for Ag Systems Technology, managing soybean test plots, and currently he serves as a precision tech specialist who works with farmers to install and utilize precision technology, which we all love a little help. So I'm going to go ahead and turn the session over to my Farmers Mutual Hail group, and I'll be here manning the chat. If you need anything, just let me know.
Thanks, Megan. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to our session today. We're going to spend a little bit of time here, talk a little bit about FMH. There we go. We're going to talk just a little bit about FMH and then our FieldView connection and the partnership that we have. But most importantly, we're going to spend some time today talking with both Betsy and Cole, so you can get it right from the people who work in this on a daily basis that can connect with you and help you understand what it is that we do at FMH and how we partner with FieldView. We'll swap that around a little bit towards the end and come and wrap up with some of the value that you should see from it. So know in the beginning here that we're really going to be focusing on the connection that we have, and the way that we work with FieldView is really pretty simple and straightforward, but the power behind using that data is what we're going to talk about a little bit today. So I'm going to give just a little bit more information about FMH if you're not very familiar with us. So FMH is for Farmers Mutual Hail, so we acronym down to FMH. So there's acronyms everywhere in our world today. We are one of 14 and soon to be 13 approved insurance providers. So many of you are familiar with the federal crop insurance program, and you know that there are only a certain number of companies that can offer it. The reason it's going from 14 to 13 is that there's an acquisition that's going on, and 2 companies are getting together. And that's really one of the things that we feel like help us position FMH to be really unique in that market when you're talking about the approved insurance providers. We are a family-owned U.S.-owned, family-ran mutual insurance company, which really means that we are owned by the farmers that we insure. And that sets us apart really from every other AIP that there is. There are a few other AIPs that might still be US owned. The majority of them are not. But we are really owned by America's farmers. And so we stay very focused on providing good solutions for America's farmers. We can bring ourselves in and really be narrowed and focused on something that's really important to all of us. I think that's really another thing that's really nice about us, since we aren't offering to or answering to a larger company with a whole bunch of different things that they're working on. We can really stay focused on innovating quickly and bringing solutions to market. So this precision, using your precision data for crop insurance is something that's been evolving for the last 5 to 6 years, maybe getting close to 7 now, where it's really been used inside the company, but we're constantly moving with it and moving as the marketplace grows to simplify that solution, make it easy for our agents to use, make it easy for you as the farmers to connect to it. So just a little bit, like I said, about the agenda, we'll go through our connection so you can understand what we're talking about a little bit, and then we'll spend quite a bit of time talking with Betsy and Cole today. All right, so in general, how you can use FieldView data for crop insurance. If you're familiar with federal crop insurance, you know that the traditional way of doing it is to use a 578 report from your FSA that really talks about here's the acres that you insure for your crop insurance. But any of you that farm or work with farmers know that that's a map that's been drawn and it's got some acres put on it, and it doesn't really take everything into consideration. It doesn't take into consideration things like tree lines or waterways or certain things like that. So usually it's a little overstated on the total acres that you're planting. So one of the things you can use your FieldView data for is for being able to bring in and insure only those acres that you plant. That's our reporting acres in the spring side of it. We can also use the data from FieldView to report your production. So again, if you think about both sides of that equation, if you're actually talking about the acres that you harvest, if you're talking about the bushels, your wet weight, your average moisture that you get right from your monitor as you're going through, you can bring that in and use that for your production reporting. Both of those two pieces of information then allow you to move into a much smoother claims experience. That data is into the company, the insurance company has it available. FMH actually has their own proprietary adjuster reports that we use that are made up of both your planting and your production data. So when it comes time to pay a claim, you don't have to be scurrying around looking for all your scale tickets. You don't have to have people climbing up your bins and measuring them. You can use that data right from the farm management software, right from FieldView that you sent in, and be able to get that claim report over to the adjusters. And usually they can be pretty much once and done on the farm because of that. And then that also comes into play when you have any type of an audit that triggers, right? If you think about being in that particular situation again, if you find out that you're triggering for an audit, or maybe you're somebody that's in there every year with conflict of interest or something like that, you know that there's a lot of record keeping that's associated with it. If you've been using your FieldView data for your crop insurance, that report we were talking about that the claims adjusters use, that's all they need. Basically, they show up with you and said, hey, by the way, you got triggered for an audit and here's the paper you need to sign and you're done. You didn't have to go dig up and find all those things. And we'll talk about that a little bit more. I'll actually let Betsy and Cole dive into that better because they know the experience more than what I do. But certainly those are the reasons why we want to consider using that FieldView data for crop insurance. Another one of the benefits to using your farm management data, your FieldView data, is that you can get it done earlier. You don't have to wait in line. You don't have to go to the FSA office first. As soon as you're done planting, you can submit your data to your insurance agent, and they can get your acreage report ready for you to sign and basically buy yourself back some time on your calendar. So as soon as you're done, you can get this done and then move on about your day. From an agent side and then from a farmer side, we can talk about the benefits to how that helps you in your operations in just a little bit here. So you might be wondering, well, what does that really mean when we talk about having a direct connection with FMH to Climate FieldView? So as you know, you've got your puck when you're working with FieldView. It creates, as you're planting, you can see the maps So an example of it here in the middle, you know, what you're watching in that monitor, if you're a farmer or as an agent, this is what the farmer is seeing. You can see it's kind of painting here along the way. As you go through it here, that's what they're watching. And then when they're done, they can connect with FMH, give us permission, send the data to us, and then we get your signed acreage report. And that connection is really pretty easy. Create a policyholder center account, which takes a user ID, a password, a policy number, right? You get connected with us. The very first time that a farmer brings their data to FMH, they have to give us permission and give FieldView permission to share your data, right? So you are always, as a farmer, you're always in control of that. You have the ability to go in and say, yes, I want to share it. And if you decide you don't want to share it anymore, you can go in and say no. We really respect and value your data privacy and data security. So that's a very important step for us, is to do that. When you've done that, it really becomes a point of going into, now you're done planting, you log into the policyholder center, you go to your climate FieldView connection, you pick your, if it's spring or fall, whether you're bringing in planter production, and you hit submit. And then you're done. That's it. That's all you have to do to get your data to FMH, so that FMH can help the agent get an acreage report that they can get to you to be signed. You can do it from your tractor cab. You can do it sitting on the couch at night. You can do it when you're sitting in your office. All you need to do is hit that submit button. So there's not a lot of big demo for us to do today. It's really pretty much down to about 4 clicks inside of the app once you're signed in. So it's kind of a fun connection for us. What we're going to spend the bulk of our time today is really just, again, talking with Cole and Betsy and letting them share their experience of using FieldView data for crop insurance, how it benefits them on the farm, and other connections that they really want to make with us. So I'm going to stop sharing our presentation, if I can figure out how to stop sharing, but I'll stop sharing it here pretty soon. We're just going to start on some conversations. So did it stop sharing, guys?
Yep, you're good.
Perfect. Oh, thank you. All right, so Cole, let's start with you. Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and how you use FieldView in your operations?
Yeah, so corn and soybean farmer here in East Central Iowa. We've been using FieldView for probably 5-ish years, somewhere right around there. It's currently in our planter and also in our combine. I love it. It gives us a better map to look at as we go through the field. We're a case family, so that Pro 700 monitors really don't give us a great map generally. So that's really a big benefit for us. We can see what we're doing, and we can see if we're screwing up while we're planting or something like that.
Nice.
Thing that I like to do also, I farm with my uncle who's in his 70s. A lot of times he just makes a new field every time. So FieldView makes it super easy to go back in after the season's over or after you're done planting and actually merge that data with the correct field name, or if it's a new field, put the right field name in, so your data does line up at the end of the year. Yeah, I mean,
that's perfect, Cole. Maybe we could kick it over to Betsy here. And Betsy, would you like to, you've got really kind of a unique background, right? So I think if you would introduce yourself and then kind of connect that together, and then we'll get started on some more conversation.
Yeah, I'm Betsy Harms. I'm an independent insurance agent, but I've had kind of a unique connection with climate. Started back when Climate sold total weather insurance many years ago, and I actually stayed connected with Climate as they evolved into the climate that they are today. It's kind of been some stepping stones, but what I felt was it was valuable to the farmer to really see their data and make decisions. And that's why I've kind of stayed connected with Climate through the years. And definitely as a crop insurance agent, being able to use that data for crop insurance. There's so many different ways you can use data to make decisions and to better your farming operation. And I can do that on the crop insurance end for my farmers. So not only on the climate end, like Cole mentioned about going in and just getting that data all in order, I can help my clients do that. But then again, just being able to report that on the crop insurance side. I've been doing the precision reporting for 10 years with Farmers Mutual Hail. So we kind of from the get-go and from the start when that started, it's definitely also evolved over time, and it keeps getting easier and easier to do the precision reporting. Absolutely love the connection when you go into Policy Center for the client. You can directly connect to your climate account and that data pulls over, because that was one of the probably the biggest points early on where it was hard. How are you going to transfer that data? You can't email it, the file's too big. All of that back and forth was probably a setback, but this connection has made that process so easy between Farmers Mutual Hail and climate. So really, the farmers that I've been dealing with over time, if we started doing precision reporting, they have not gone back to the traditional ways of reporting. They definitely see the benefit in the precision reporting.
That's great. And if I remember right, Betsy, I feel like quite a few of the customers that you have with FMH actually are using precision. Am I remembering that correctly?
Yes, a large percentage of my client base, they're collecting data, and at that point, we're using it as precision reporting. So that's my preferred way, because I really do see the value in doing it for the client. You see that policy benefit by using the planting data when you look back, because it can, you're actually using your as planted acres. You're paying premium on those as planted acres, not FSA acres. Most generally, your planted acres are less than what FSA has. So you're paying less premium. And at the end of the day, the bushels are always the same coming off of there. So you're increasing your APH data, building that database just to be more accurate. And that's really been a benefit on the planting end, but in the policy end. But the biggest bang that I think for the farmer themselves, benefit wise, is on the production end. That's when their work and labor changes, because they go to FSA every single year and report their acres. So that's just part of that normal process. But when it comes to harvest, they're just focused on that operation, where they're getting that harvest operation. So they're not really worried about crop insurance records at that point. And I feel like farmers tend to kind of back into the production when it's all said and done. And where if you're using precision reporting, you're using those combine records. All you got to do is calibrate. And if you're looking at your data, you're calibrating anyway. And so it's just those production records are something they just don't want to do. They revert back to their combine records anyway. So why not be able to verify that and use the actual precision process where that's all they need with that calibration report?
That makes a lot of sense, Betsy. And the whole time you were talking, I saw Cole over here smiling about that. So, Cole, how did the things Betsy was talking about as a farmer, how did that hit you? And, would you agree with her on that, or do you have more to add to that?
Yeah, I would definitely agree on the harvest side of things. You get to the end of the year. We've only been doing precision with FMH for 2 years, I think. And I can remember 3 years ago, we were backing into it. We had a claim, we thought anyway, and trying to figure out, going through the paperwork, going to town, getting our load tickets, measuring bins. If you just do it through precision, you don't have to worry about all that. It's done. As soon as you finish that field, it's there. So another thing I caught from you earlier was just the benefits to the farmer outside of course, it's huge for us. Like a couple of years ago, we had put some tile in, and now we can see the benefits of that as we go through the field every year, just by that zone and running those zone reports. And just wanted to hit that too. So
Cole, are there other benefits that you feel like you've had with using FieldView? I know when we were doing some of our pre-meeting chatting, you were just talking about just your iPad in general and having that power of the data right there for us. Maybe you could share a little bit about that and then connect that over also into looking at your policyholder center to see your data.
Yep, absolutely. So my uncle, he takes a notebook or something with him everywhere. I'm to the point now where I just bring my iPad with me everywhere because everything I need is on the FieldView Cab app already. So if I need to, if I'm going to meet with one of my agronomists and they've got some questions, I've got that with me all the time. We can just open it up, see what happened during planting. We actually do map our anhydrous passes as well, so we can see if, maybe the rate was off somewhere or something like that. So it's super handy. Just bring it with you and you've got the data all the time.
How about you, Betsy? I know as you said, you've stayed really connected to both climate and in the operations of an insurance agent. What would you say your farmers most like about using that connection and the FieldView side of it when you're talking to them?
I think it really comes down to that record keeping. It makes it so easy because farmers farm for a reason and they're not office people in most cases. So keeping those records straight is not what they like to do. They like to be out in the tractor. They like to be out hands-on. And so I think just that benefit of having accurate records without them having to do extra steps. Their planting map, their record is going as they're planting. Their harvest, it's going as they're harvesting. So they're not doing any extra work because they're already collecting that data. The only one thing is that calibration report that you have to have. You have to be within 3%. In most cases, you're going to be less than 1% accurate if you're actually calibrating that monitor. And so that's the one thing. But as long as you're recording that, and in some cases, the monitors keep a record of your calibrations as well. So a lot of times the farmers, once they calibrate, they'll just snap a picture of their calibration and send it over to me just via text message, and I keep that in their file. So if they do have a claim, it is, you got the planted map, you got the harvest map, and you got that calibration report, and it is amazing how fast that those claims just get taken care of. Without the actual physical labor of getting all those records in order as far as shifting through that at the end of the season for those guys. So definitely like that piece of it. And I guess just to kind of tag along with that, I've got some family members that farm. Of course, I have an agricultural background, and so they do get flagged for those audits. And, having to go back and do that, well, we're using precision consistently year over year, and those audits just aren't even an issue anymore because all that data and everything is already verified year after year. So that makes that process easy because, let's face it, if you say you got an audit, that just seems like a lot of work.
Right.
That's something that farmers don't want to do. So this really, really makes that process easy.
Yeah, I would agree with that completely. I really don't even know the last time we got audited last year. I didn't even know until the adjuster came out and just made sure everything was right, and then we signed off, and that was it.
So Cole, that's kind of interesting. I think you'd mentioned that to me before, and you also mentioned early on that you farm with your uncle and that he's kind of the pencil and paper guy. What were his thoughts when he hit that audit? Was he a little bit, did you get him like moving a little bit more in the believer there?
Yeah, I definitely did. He's only been audited one time in the past before that, and he said it was a mess. Everything was a mess. I had stuff everywhere. I was busy all week finding paperwork, and so he's moving in the right direction now. He's getting more comfortable with it. So
nice.
Yeah, and I guess to tag along with that, on climate, it's easy. Like you said, you keep that field in there year after year. You merge data, make sure that data is all together, that you can go back and pull those those planting and harvest maps so easy with climate. They make that's you can see it
Yep.
visibly, and it's accessible, which is
Yep.
obviously one of the biggest things that climate has brought to the table in regards to their space, is making it user friendly.
Yep.
I would say kind of it's another kind of leading question, if you will, Cole. But I know you mentioned that you're mostly case in your operations, but I know you've worked with operations that are really kind of, I'd call it like mixed fleet.
Yep.
And maybe you could tell us just a little bit there from your perspective of something like climate and how it helps us in those kinds of situations when we're using FieldView and we're in mixed fleet.
Yep. I've seen all kinds of mixed fleet operations, from even 2 or 3 different brands of planters running in the same field at the same time. As long as those are all compatible with climate, and you've calibrated all those, of course, like in the fall, that data goes to the cloud and it builds that map and it completes that map. So that's super handy. Same thing on the planting side of things. I've seen John Deere planters running John Deere planters run by red tractors with a John Deere monitor in the cab, and something else is actually steering the tractor out. I've seen it all, really. But at the end of the day, if you can connect that FieldView in some way, shape, or form to your planting monitor or harvest monitor, it makes it slick, because it all just goes right to the cloud, syncs up, and the field's complete when you're done. You don't have big gaps here and there where it looks like you missed it, but you truly didn't. It works slick.
So Betsy, when they have that situation where they've got all those different monitors and then it goes up to the cloud like that, when you use it for insurance, do you need to, do we need to get the data from each one of them, or can you pull it all from FieldView? How do you go about that from an perspective?
Yeah, so really climate does the work in combining that data from those monitors, because those monitors they'll sync that data, and like Cole said, they complete that map. So when it comes to the crop insurance end of it, the data is complete in climate. There may be some tweaking, just if you had some issue with maybe data syncing, but that's something that can either be fixed by rebuilding a map, or going back directly to that monitor and pulling that data off the monitor and re-importing it into climate. There's a few different fixes to getting that data, but at that point, once it's in climate and you can visibly see the maps, and that's the biggest key, is because otherwise you don't know what is that data.
Yep.
So climate really is the visibility of that. You're to that point, before we pull it into crop insurance, we want to make sure all those maps look good. And that's just the data management part on doing that. And I would say, for the most part, climate does such a great job as they've evolved in making sure that data, as you're going through the field, is there. But I've got some farmers that, I don't want to mess with the cab app. I don't want to mess with technology while I'm planting and while I'm in the harvest, where we just basically take their records right off the monitor, and then I import them into climate at the end of the year. So some just aren't familiar with using the data as they do their operations, but that doesn't deter them from, let's just import it into climate so you can see it when you're done, because they still like to see the data. I don't care how old you are, you still like to see that data, and you still like to see the map, regardless if you like it as you're doing your daily operation. So there's a couple ways you can go about that, but basically pulling it into the crop insurance system at that point it's just slick. You've got everything you need at that point.
That's perfect. We've got a couple more slides that we're going to go through just to show some of those more benefits, drawing it back into the crop insurance side. But before we dip over to that, I was wondering if either one of you could maybe wanted to offer, like Cole and Betsy both, like what's one tip that you would have, Cole, for the farmer, right? And Betsy, same thing with you. What would be one tip that you would offer to them, kind of going into saying, if I wanted to start using my FieldView data for crop insurance, what's your tip that you have for them?
Yeah, so I guess my tip would be, your data doesn't have to be perfect. It doesn't have to be perfectly clean. As long as it shows what you've planted, just give it a shot. Send it over to your agent and let them take a look at it. Let them build it in their system. And yeah, honestly, just send it over and let them do the work, and you'll be surprised on actually money that you might save and the APH bump that you'll get. So
Perfect.
Yeah. And just to kind of tag along with that, like Cole says, there is no risk in trying precision reporting, because when we're doing precision reporting, it goes unit by unit or field by field basis. So if for some reason you have one field, the data on that field just didn't come through, something happened with the monitor recording the data, we can do all the precision on all the other fields and just revert back to like the 578 planting from FSA for that field. There's no harm in doing that. So it's not an all or nothing, because that's one pushback is they say, well, I'm not, I really want a better monitor because sometimes it acts up on me or something like that. That's always on their wish list, right, Cole?
yeah,
But at that point, even at harvest, something may go wrong with that monitor and not collect that data. We can always revert back to that traditional way. And so we want to use the precision as much as possible because, as we talked about, all the benefits of using it is there. But for some reason, if you have a field that it just you just didn't get that data on, we can revert back to the traditional way. So I've got all my farmers, like I said, that have tried it. Let's try the precision. If we have to revert for some reason or another, we will do that. But their first choice is doing precision reporting. So
That's awesome. All right, I'm going to share our screens back again a little bit, and I'll probably call on both of you a couple times during this next piece as well.
okay.
Okay, and can you see the screen okay?
Yep.
All right, so we're just going to go into a little bit of value to you, and we're really gearing this more towards the farmers who'll be listening to this, and we want to just kind of walk you through this if you've not been in a position yet where you've used your FieldView data or your precision planting data for it. So, and when we use precision data, that's really the data you're collecting in FieldView. We just use precision to kind of encompass the whole name of it. So we're going to do a little comparison between reporting with your precision data and your FSA data. And so this is just an aerial view of an area that we're going to talk about. And this is actually one of your fields, Cole. Thanks for sharing it with us. We start out the season, typically when we talk about traditional for crop insurance, this is what the FSA would tell Cole that he's planting and insuring, right? This 57.27 acres, and it's this field on this map. When he's planting along in FieldView, you talked about it, Cole. You mentioned that you like being able to watch what's going on, but this is really your population map, right?
Yep, that's exactly what it is.
Okay. And so as I think one of the questions that we get asked a lot, and maybe you can help me through these next couple of slides, is, well, you're talking about my data, and I don't know how you are with yours, but some people are kind of private about their data, and they really want to know what data are we sharing and what are they doing with it, right? So from your perspective, if you could maybe walk me through, so the population map, and then we'll just go through a couple of them along the way.
Okay.
So this would be, yeah.
Yeah. So I've walked through it with my agent before because my uncle especially is really particular about who sees his data and how it's used. I've sat down with the agent. When we send our data through the FieldView connection, all our agent actually gets is a coverage map similar to this one, where it shows the date and time that we planted and the actual crop, and then of course the planted acres, the true planted acres, which is exactly what this map is basically showing. It just shows that we planted this bean field on the 10th of May this year. So
So if I went back to this screen from a crop insurance side, we don't really get the information around your population or all of that detail. We really just get your coverage. And then from there, it moves inside. So this is what it would look like when it comes into the system for Betsy to be able to take over and use it. And you can see we're at 53.3 acres. So if we go back to here, we were at 57.27. And once it comes into FMH, we're at a 53.3 acres. And people might, again, if you think about that value of using precision and what we're talking about, the benefit of using something like FieldView for us is you can see where we took out the acres that weren't planted. So these are all the areas in Cole's field that weren't planted, right? And so that ends up insuring 53 instead of 57. Does that sound right to you, Cole?
Yep, that's exactly right.
So if we take that to this next slide, and we'll just show you this. The next slide won't be Cole's example, but we'll kind of show you how this can play out. Now, remember everybody that we're talking here, we're doing a little generalization on the next slide. Everybody's premium dollars and things will be different based on the coverages that you pick, but we just wanted to show a demonstration of what that would look like if you're thinking about your FSA versus your precision acres. So in this case, we've got all corn. We had 73.34 FSA acres. 69.47 precision. So in this example, it was about 5% lower acres. So if you just took that over to premium and again, assumed $40 an acre just for the sake of this example, and we had 700 acres total, your total premium would be about $28,000. And if you were able to save about 5% of that, you would save $1,400 off of that. Right, so that's just off of one field that we're talking about. So you can imagine when you start taking that across your operations, right? And then I'll go through the production example, and then I'll let you guys jump in if there's any comments that you want to throw in on it. From the production side, again, using that FSA number versus that precision number, you can see the difference on how your bushels per acre also calculate out, right? So generally speaking, in a lot of cases, but not always, but in a lot of cases, your precision acres are going to be more accurate. They're always going to be more accurate. Usually they're less than FSA. I should make sure I be careful about how I say that. Usually they're going to be less than FSA. And so generally you're going to see that over time, you're going to have a higher production total as well. And that will play into the creation of your APH databases. So I'll stop here and just see if there's anything you guys want to add to this on your experiences. Betsy, on what you see as it comes in for crop insurance, and maybe if you could remember when you've had maybe somebody who was newer to bringing their data in, and if you had anybody with any good reactions or even just general reactions to that lower premium or how they felt about it. And then Cole, in your case as well, how you're feeling about it from a farm perspective.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely, I sit down, I always do a map-based acreage report with my farmers. So it kind of reflects that you see it on climate, you see it on your crop insurance acreage report. Because when you look at the map and you're going to see, like when we pull Farmers Mutual Hale's acreage report, it's going to have your FSA acres right next to your as planted acres on that same CLU. So it is interesting to see the farmers are like, oh yeah, or maybe there was something in that field that happened. Maybe they made a change in that field and they planted a few more acres this year, or weren't able to plant as many acres this year, just given the situation. So it's kind of interesting when you go through and you show them that map and then they look at the acres and like, oh yeah, that is right, because I was a little short or a little long this year due to this. So it's kind of an interesting, I guess, story behind it. But and with those map-based acreage reports, as we looked at, it just forgoes a lot of errors that as an agent, you don't want to have keying errors. You don't want to have to go back and redo reports. So, it's easy to look at something and report corn when it was beans, but when you do the map-based, it's in color of what it is, and that really just clicks with the farmer as far as seeing their map rather than a unit base. So I guess I'm kind of going off on a little bit different direction than where you're hitting, Don, but I guess when I'm actually seeing it and looking at those are the kind of comments I get. Obviously, when it comes down to to that production, they're like, okay, what'd you yield on that field? Well, it kind of depends upon how many acres you're using when you're doing your calculation, right? So those as planted acres are as accurate as you can get when you're trying to look at your bushel yields and in that database. So looking at this at 200 versus 212, that's a huge difference for a farmer. We don't really see that on our end when we're looking at it, but that kind of reminds me, maybe we should do that calculation a little more often to remind these guys what it really does, because right here is a very good example, Don, of what that can do.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would agree with that completely. That 2 bushel advantage, that increases your trigger yield over time. And honestly, over the last 2 years, we've kind of seen that ourselves, and it's actually encouraged us to bump up a little bit of our coverage level.
Well,
going from 80 to 85 is what we've actually done. So
Cole, you hit that as well, because like when it comes down to looking at your coverage, and you're looking at your APH and what your crop insurance coverage levels can be, that makes a huge difference. If you've built up that APH database, you feel like you've got more power behind your crop insurance options.
Yep.
So I definitely see that as, like you said, it may change the coverage option that you take at the end of the day as the farmer.
Absolutely.
Well, and it's interesting to me, we started out this conversation. We'll have some key takeaways here. And if anybody has any questions coming in, we've got some time now that we can do some QA. But, we started out with this as being a great partner with FieldView, and really, being able to start with them back in 2018 so that by 2019, we were able to automatically have this data come in. And that's what enables us to get to these benefits for you, like that we're demonstrating here. But yet it's such a simple conversation when we talk about what our connection is. And that was because we really worked together. We were the first insurance company that FieldView worked with to really dial that in and make the process be something that wasn't strenuous or overexerting for the farmers to be able to do. We know that you are already investing in all of the equipment it takes to be able to collect that data, and then also to be able to connect to FieldView. And so, this is just hopefully a way to extend some of that investment that you've made in being able to get that precision data, and be able to also help you with additional input decisions as you're deciding what to do with your farm money. Because Cole, I liked your example of being able to say, by saving some of this money, I could actually increase my coverage and still spend the same amount of premium that I was spending before. So you're getting better coverage for the same amount of money because you're dialing it into what you're really planting. So those are all really, really good benefits. So while we didn't spend a whole lot of time in a big demo or anything, it's because we worked together with FieldView to say, this is what we got to do. We have got to make this be super simple so that that's not the barrier, right? We got to work on some of the other things, like, do I want to send my data in, like you mentioned with your uncle a little bit, Cole? And that's not unusual. And Betsy, I know that you've talked a little bit about the hurdles of when you get them there, but once they start using it, it's really there. But it's a pretty basic connection for us to get there. Megan, do we have any questions that we want to take? I don't know what we have left for time here.
Well, you guys have answered quite a lot. It's been phenomenal hearing your presentation. What a very wonderful and obvious use case that can truly simplify your life. If I asked something that was already answered, forgive me, but I just want to confirm. So do I have to insure the same acres as I report? I just want to make sure we have that clear. Or can they be different?
Yeah, I'll take that question. I get that often because at first they don't really know what to expect, but they're like, well, the acres that I'm reporting on my crop insurance have always matched my FSA acres because that's what they have always used for the traditional way to report. But this is really the true benefit of the precision, is that your as planted acres that you use for precision reporting do not have to match FSA acres. And really it's just the accuracy of those as planted acres being a benefit to your crop insurance. So no, they don't need to match, and rarely would they ever match what FSA has for acres.
Awesome. And so when when it comes to record keeping, right? Do I need to utilize precision data for crop insurance, or does it completely eliminate it? Like if I have all my precision data, can I completely eliminate my scale tickets or feed records? Or do you recommend doing a combination of both? What's the best option there for a farmer stepping into precision reporting?
Yeah, I can take that one. I would for sure say you. I don't know if you'd want to eliminate all of it, but you sure can if you do this. Yeah, you don't, as long as you've got the maps and you're sending it over to your agent, they've got it all, and you don't really need to worry about it. So
From a company perspective, a lot of times, Megan, we would recommend, well, you know, if you've got them, if you've already picked them up or you're getting them from the scale or whatever, go ahead and keep them, but you can put them in the shoebox and put them up on the shelf if that's what you want to do. You don't have to go through, get them organized, you know, write them all down, do all those things. It's more of just a backup. But generally speaking, completely what Cole said, as long as you've got the data and you know, we'd always recommend maybe keeping a backup of your data, you know, so as long as you've got those, it makes it a lot easier.
Absolutely. And I absolutely agree with that too. While I think precision technology is phenomenal, especially if you're new to it, you don't have to completely throw away your old systems. Definitely stair step, get comfortable, and doesn't hurt to have a backup, right? We have a question here in the chat talking about calibrations for reporting. So they're required to be within that 3% of known bushel for their scaled tickets. Let's say field A is 10% high and bushels for field B are 8% low. Do we consider in the transition of data, are we considering that post calibration, or are we going to use those hard original records when the data is collection? So basically when we're reporting, if they adjust, will it show the adjusted or will it show how the data was reported? And Nathan, if I didn't get that right, feel free to clarify. I think I know the answer to this one, but.
Well, technically, like once as you're calibrating it, it may depend upon how your monitor works. Sometimes they work backwards. Cole, you're kind of in that space as well, where once you calibrate it, it may work backwards to adjust all the numbers, or potentially it works moving forward. But ultimately, once you break into that field, you're going to want to calibrate right away, so the data is as accurate as you want, you know, as you go along, because you're going to, depending upon how many loads it takes you. I think most of my guys, you know, 3 loads typically do it to get it calibrated, sometimes 5 or 6 if there's something going on with the monitor, but they just don't see a huge range in not getting down to that 3% or less. Most of the time they want to get it down within a 1%. So most of the time the farmers really want to start out with that accurate data. I know sometimes they may not have a way to calibrate right away, but it may go backwards on the monitor depending upon what they're using in the cab.
Yeah, because you can do those post-harvest calibrations in
Yes.
FieldView to tweak it if you need to.
Yes, correct. You can go back and use those and punch those in. You're right, Megan.
Yeah.
From a crop insurance perspective, there are some rules around post-harvest calibration. So while FieldView may allow you to do it, we still have to, if you want to use your harvest data for crop insurance, we do need to we'd recommend just keep trying to dial it into that 3%. And then if you, it gets kind of complicated, the rules around calibration and post-harvest calibration for using your data for crop insurance. So we would tend to say, you know, I'd go ahead and do those extra couple of loads to try to get yourself dialed into that 3%, and you're going to have all the benefits that you want to have. If you would stop at that 10 and then post-harvest calibrate later, that will make it so that we can't use your data the same way for crop insurance. And Cole, you can jump on that if you want to add any more to it too. I know you've got kind of a dual step here.
Yeah, from what I've gathered and been told and been taught, in that first field, when you're opening up the first field, calibrate to 3%, and make sure you send that to your agent right away. I've been told if field conditions change, like if your moisture or yield changes drastically, it's always a good idea to calibrate again.
Yep.
But at the same time, you have calibrated to 3%. And if you do have a field later on that is 10% off, you can use that post calibration at that point. But the key is to calibrate to 3% at the very beginning, first thing you do. So
Yeah,
It's a
and
great question.
not only with crop, I guess for the crop insurance perspective, but you just as a farmer collecting your data, that's going to be what you want to do anyway,
Yep.
as you see that those changes.
absolutely.
So you can utilize your data. Yeah.
Yep.
Absolutely, absolutely. Hey, it looks like we have 3 minutes left. Our groups are starting to move back, so let's go ahead and wrap up here. If you all have any additional questions, I'm sure we'll have a way to reach out to FMH to get those answered for you. Thank you for the participation. And Dawn, I'll turn it back over to you.
All right, I have just one last wrap up here then. So just to kind of wrap it up then today, we just want to kind of dial in on what our key takeaways would be from today. So the first key takeaway is that FMH and FieldView have a unique integration, right? And so we've really tried to streamline it. I know we've mentioned that to you a couple times, to streamline it so you can get that acreage reporting turned in with just a couple clicks of a button. So really keep that in mind. Also, we've mentioned this, so these are just reminders of the takeaways. Using that precision data really does extend the value of that investment that you've already made, right? You get some of those financial benefits from paying only the premium that you need to, and then also making sure you're building the most accurate APH database. Those are really high on our list. And then the last key takeaway that we really wanted to say is that from both FMH and FieldView, we do really value and know that you want to have a secure data connection and that you want to be in control of who gets to see your data. And so we make sure we keep that permission granting in your hands at all times. And so by putting that in our policyholder center and giving you that ability to turn that off and on and making it as simple as we can, we're really trying to help you save that time and money and feel safe, feel confident about the usage of your data. So those are the few things that we wanted to be able to take away. We really thank everybody for joining us today. And certainly, as Megan said, we've got a QR code you can scan here if you want to connect with us and send in any other additional questions. Otherwise, we'll see you back in the main session.